Welcome. Thank you so much for making time to chat with us today. Why don't you start, Tombi, by introducing yourself to anybody who doesn't know who you are?
Okay, so I'm currently staying in Arizona State, close to Arizona State University. I did my bachelor's there.
Tell us your name, Tombi. Yes,
I know
your name.
really pronounce it. That's the fun thing. It's in Ntombizodwa Makuyana. I don't know how to pronounce it because that name I was given by a doctor. So it's not really my parents who gave me that name. So it's also a struggle for me to pronouncing it.
So that's an interesting story. How did the doctor end up naming you?
So on that day, the girl was being born, and I was the last person to be born. So they thought there was something special. So they just gave me that name.
Oh, so that day wasn't Ntombizodwa. It was all girls.
Yeah, only girls. That's what it means.
Well, girls are a blessing. Well, I mean, all children are a blessing, but as a girl, I think girls are an extra special blessing. So, welcome. So, so Tombi, welcome. And then you were telling me that you're at Arizona State, or just staying outside Arizona State.
Yes. That's where I am staying for now. I'm doing a little bit of research with one of my professors on cervical cancer. I'm trying to look for biomarkers for that. And I've been also working as a teacher. Here they call it middle school, but when in Zimbabwe, it's more like primary school, close to high school. It's like Form 7. No, I'm like Form 7. Grade 7, Grade 6, and Grade 8. Grade 8 is like Form 1 there. So that's what I've been doing for the past a year so far. So
So you mentioned, that you're from Zimbabwe. So tell me what that was like. Where did you grow up in Zimbabwe? Tell me a little bit about your childhood and growing up in Zimbabwe.
So I grew up in an area called Hopley. It's close to Sockley Park, if you know. That's where I grew up. It's mostly like underdeveloped place. Not really like you have like electricity, you have like this fancy road and stuff. It wasn't like that. So that's where I grew up. And mostly like, it's just, if you are going to school, it's like, oh yeah, you are being fancy. Most of the people that I grew up with, they just go to school, they end up going to Form 4, that's it. Or Form 2, that's it, nothing else. So it was just like that. And for me, going to school, it was really hard because like I said before, I had to struggle balancing schoolwork, my housework, and also helping my father because I was like the firstborn in a family. And all of them, they are like my brothers, but they are like younger than me. So I had to help my father with his construction work. And which is like, because he's like a builder. So he needs like someone who is like, what do they call it? They call it Daka boy. Someone who mixes sand and cement, and you pass it to him. So
it's hard work, right? That is hard work.
Yeah, so I had to help him with that. So I had no option. And also my mother, because she was also working part-time as a maid in one of the suburbs. So sometimes I stay home, clean the house, help my younger brothers, and then I go to school. So I had to wake up very early in the morning, and then you do that, and then you go to school. So it was really hectic, but I don't know how I made it work, but here I am.
So when you're going through all of this, what was your dream? Because what you were seeing, like to what you said, so the people around you, they're doing maybe Form 2, so that's like what, about 14, 15 years old, or going maybe up to Form 4, so about 16 years old, and then dropping out of school. What was your dream at that age?
I really wanted to be a doctor because most of the people in my community, like you just hear someone is sick, or like it was mainly tuberculosis, TB, cholera, people are just dying. And you hear like they don't have money to go to the medical, the medical hospital. And I'm just like, okay, this is when I really need to contribute something. So earlier I was really like into like becoming a doctor. But when I come here to the US, I realized that to go to medical school, you actually need to have the first degree. So I end up doing like medicinal biochemistry on my way to becoming a doctor. But once you're in college, everything changes. It's like you have your goals, and then you meet different people. And it's like, yeah. So that's what happened to me.
But did that even seem to you? Because I'm trying to imagine what that would be like, where around me, I see people who are doing, ending school at Form 2, Form 4. You don't really have like a template of, I can go to university and then I can do this. Where had that dream come from? Like, how did you even hold on to it when, by day you're trying to go to school, but you're also trying to be the DACA boy and you're also trying to, all of that. How did you hold on to that dream?
So for me, I think it was more like, because I told you, like, my mom used to work in these suburbs where she was a maid. So like sometimes she would take me with me. And for me, seeing other people's kids doing well, like I used to meet like one of her boss' child, and she was like in university, she was a doctor, and she's doing well, and she was telling me all these stories, fancy stuff. So for me, that became like, I really want to do that. Like, yeah. And then I would walk like in the neighborhoods and I'll see like, they are nice houses. And I'm just like, wow, these people are living the dream. And I was living like in something else. So for me, that became like that goal. But I didn't know there was something extra. For me, it was just like getting these nice houses or getting into this university. And then I become like that. So it built on that. Yeah.
And so tell me, did you do well in school? Like, what were your grades like in school?
When I was in primary school, I wasn't really that good. But when I went to high school, it suddenly changed. I don't know, all of a sudden. Maybe that's the moment when I decided to change my faith, because I wanted to become a Christian. In my family, we are like Mapostori people. So I was like, okay, let me try the going to synagogue thing. Yeah. And then everything suddenly changed. Yeah.
And did you know, so you knew that you wanted to be a doctor. So was that kind of your vision going into, as you came out of your O-levels and went into A-levels, was that you needed
Yes, that was my dream. Yeah. All throughout, till I come to the university, that was my dream, going to medical school. Yeah.
And so then how was that application process? So you do your A-levels. Did you do very well in the A-levels? How did that work out for you?
Okay, so from high school, I was doing my O-levels. It was really a struggle to get the money to write my final exams. So one of my mom's boss ended up paying for me to write my O-levels. I did really well because I was studying most of the time. So I would study most of the nights. I'm like studying, and then I sleep for like 2 hours, and then wake up early, and then run, do stuff, and run to school. So I was really like always on my grades, because that was the only thing that could save me. I mean, there was no other way, honestly. So wow. I had to do that. So I really studied hard. And it was really good. I was number one in most of my classes in all the subjects. I don't know how that happened. Yeah. And then
we know when you're studying all the time, that's how it happened. It doesn't just happen, right?
Yeah. So I ended up getting a scholarship, Makomborero scholarship, which made me to go to Gateway High School. And then from there, I was mainly like doing it like full-time, studying, because the people that were paying for my school fees, I didn't have to worry about paying for my school fees. And also my school uniforms. They were really nice people, honestly, because they really opened me like these doors, which I didn't know. It's like, you meet different people. And at that time, I didn't know how to speak English. They actually had to teach me, because I was going to these A schools. It was really hard. You start speaking broken English, and then you start like learning. And they were so patient with me, like teaching me all these things. And then from there, I think because of Makomborero people, they actually opened me like other doors to go to the United States, because without them, I don't think I would be here.
Wow. So what did that give you? What did that make you feel, having that opportunity to have somebody sponsor you for your A-levels?
I mean, honestly, during that time, I was like, when I grow up, I also want to do that to someone. Just get someone and then pay for their tuition, make sure that they are also like, they reach to certain levels that I also reached. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like another extra love. Nobody really does that, like to pay for your school fees, let alone to take care of you and teach you from like, take you from the dust and just, yeah. So I tend to become emotional because.
And so you should be, because it completely changed the trajectory of your life, right?
Yeah, it's really changed everything.
And so once you graduate, so you write your A levels, then tell me what happened after you wrote your A levels.
So I wrote my A levels at Gateway. They write these Cambridge A levels, not like the SimSec. So I wrote that. I did quite well. I had like 3 A stars and 1 A. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
let me just pause on that. Let's pause on that. You said, I did quite well. I expected you to say, oh, I got some B's and some C's. You say, oh, I got 3 A stars.
I mean, during that time, people were getting A's throughout all their subjects. So for me, I was like, oh, A. Other subject got A stars. But it was okay. Yeah.
And so when you got your results, then what was your thought process around, okay, you've got these results, what do you do next?
So at Gateway, they used to come these, like in these A schools in Zimbabwe, they have like college people from outside, they come and then they do career fairs. I'm not really sure if it's still happening in other schools, but they do that in Gateways, Arundel. They have like these college fairs. Even Prince Edward, they have people coming from outside and then they do career fairs, show people. So that used to happen at my school, and I would see all these American schools. They would tell you like, oh yeah, please just apply and this and that. And there was also this, it's called USAP. They help students who are like from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, and then they just help you with the application process, writing SATs and doing like most of the stuff. So through that, because I was at Gateway, I also met these people, USAP people, and Makomboro people also connected me. So it was like a combination of like support from Gateway and also the scholarship I had. So I met this lady called Rebecca Zitlamano, and then she started helping me with like most of my SATs, my applications to American universities. So yeah, and then I got into Arizona State University.
ASU.
Yeah, ASU. It wasn't really fancy. When I got to it, I wasn't really like super excited because like, everybody they go is like to get into these Ivy schools. My friends, they're also getting into these Ivy schools. I was like, oh, I'm going to Arizona State University, Yeah, and it's a big school, big environment. You get lost. You're just like, oh, where am I? Yeah. But I actually thank God because I actually came here, and I think it really suits with my personality as well. So yeah, I mean, I was like into these Ivy schools, but I was like, okay, I think this is actually perfect. So yeah.
What did you start out studying when you went to ASU?
I studied with biochemistry.
Yeah. And so was it with the intention that you wanted to go down?
Yeah, it was more like a pre-med subject. So my goal was to still go into medical school after I graduate. I was still determined. So I studied, and I literally passed my bachelor's. Here we do 4.0 GPA. Like if you have 4.0 GPA, like that's perfect. I actually had above 4.0 GPA. And I tried to apply to medical schools, but then the problem here is you actually need to pay, like to go, like to get a scholarship is very hard. You actually need to pay. I got some scholarship, it was like half, but then the money they were telling me to pay, I was like, I don't have this kind of money, and it's so hard. And my second plan was to do research. Because I've been doing research all this time. Like I said, I'm working on cervical cancer. And I actually realized I actually love research more than, and being a doctor is just something that just like a childhood dream that I'm still aspiring to do. But the thing that I love is just being in lab and trying to solve those problems. And I'm just like, yeah, so I end up applying for PhD program.
And I'll say this as someone who I have a family member of mine who literally just graduated a couple of months ago. Oh, no, not even a month ago from medical school. And he went, then went back to medical school in his 30s to get his degree. So if that's still a dream, you can hold on to the dream. It can still come true.
Yep. Yeah. So that's something that I'm still working on. I don't know whether it's just a mentality because, in our culture, it's either you become a doctor, engineer, accountant. And I feel like that is something that is still in my mind. And I'm still trying to work it out, like to also like open myself to other things as well. Yeah.
But is it in your mind because you think that's an expectation, or is it in your mind because it's something that you feel you would love being a doctor and what that means being a doctor?
My mom didn't expect me to do much. Okay. The funny thing is my mom growing up used to say like, oh, you need to know how to wash dishes, clean the house because you're going to get married. That was the thing. And she never really expected me. Actually, she was shocked when she learned that I'm really good at school. Because she was expecting me to do all these housework stuff. So growing up, I was just like, she used to push me like do a lot of housework. You need to learn how to, like, it was always like, we are always arguing like washing the dishes, cleaning. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So yeah, it was a funny thing. Like she was really training me to do that. Whereas this for my brothers, they were always being trained to read books. Like I would always find my brother studying and I'm like, why are you studying? I need to be doing that as well. So it was really funny. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about it? How did that make you feel that here you are, you have as much, smarts as your brothers, and yet you're the one who's being told you need to learn how to do the dishes and they get to study? Like, how did that make you feel? And what do you want to say to us as mothers who have
So I would say I don't really say my parents were wrong. It's probably the society, because in my community, it's like I actually have like 2 friends. They're now married. They have kids. So it's like it's just the mentality around in that community. So I think, I don't know, where parents live actually has a greater impact on their like children, how they raise them, like where your location. Basically. So like in that area, it was just like that. Most of the girls, they would share. Even my mom would talk to her friends, like, oh yeah, my daughter's doing well. She can wash the dishes, she can do everything. And she's like more proud about that because that's like the norm in our society. Yeah. So I would say like for moms raising their kids, I think the environment where you raise your kids really matters. Because for me, and I was more stubborn. So if people are like pushing me to do other things, it's like you become more rebellious. You're like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this, because you're not allowed to express yourself. So parents also need to be very supportive, like try to listen to what their kids, what they want. Like for me, I teach my kids down here in Arizona. They're like about 11 years old. I have like 10 years old to 13 years old. Those are the children that I teach. So I'm becoming like more of their mom because I spend most of the time during the day with them. And I actually realized that with these kids, they told me like there are 3 types of parenting. The other one is permissive. You allow them to do whatever they want. And most of the time, they won't really do well because they feel like they have so much freedom. We are handing them things on a platter, and which wasn't really working for me with my kids. And then the other one was just like, I put all these expectations. I tell them what to do. Don't make noise in my class. Or like something like, and I realized they're actually being rebellious. So one thing that I've actually started doing is I sit with them in class and I have my marker on the board. I'm like, okay, So what do we do when someone makes noise? What is a consequence that we can think is reasonable? And then they raise voices. Oh, if somebody is making noise, Miss Tombi, I think we can make him pick the trash outside in the fields. And we all agree. So when they do the thing, I'm like, okay, you did this, and you remember what we agreed. so, so actually, that's quite effective, and that's how the American people have been doing it here, and it's really effective. And I don't think I've actually experienced that whilst growing up with my parents, and I feel like that's what parents should be doing, try to listen from their side. When they have an input, they also feel like they're also responsible for their actions, and we teach them how to these hardworking skills, okay. Yeah, for my kids, I told them, you're not earning a break until you finish this. So they feel okay, to earn a break, I need to finish this science homework that Miss Tombi gave me. And that way I'm teaching them, okay, you need to work some things to get something. And if you do something bad, you also get a consequence, and you have to deal with it. You have to own up to it. And it has been really eye-opening. Yeah, so, that's something that I also learn. I'm also learning with my kids here that I'm teaching, and also with my background, I realize it doesn't really work here. Yeah, how I grew up doesn't really work here, so yeah.
What was the biggest culture shock for you when you moved to America and specifically to Arizona?
I didn't have a culture shock what most people do. My culture shock was when I went to Gateway, because I was coming from a ghetto kind of community to coming to a suburban kind of place. So that's where my culture shock was. And it was really hard, making friends. And I know because I speak Shona, but my Shona is not that really good. So that's one thing which I realized. And then I was also, with my English, I'm good in writing, but speaking it, that's the thing in Zimbabwe. With kids, we don't really teach them these skills. We are always at home, oh yeah, Shona. But in the real world, you also need to speak English. It's not just in writing. You also need to express yourself. So I actually first that biggest challenge, because with these kids, they've been training it. In primary school, they went to 8 schools, they've been speaking English, they know different languages, and it's just a challenge. Yeah. There are some skills that I really wish I had exposure, or I really learned, swimming. I had to learn it while I was in college. And it was embarrassing, but I had to learn it. And it's something that I really wish that my parents, when I was in primary level, I should have done that. Because those are basic skills that you also need. Yeah.
So speaking about skills and things you wish you'd learned when you're younger, you talked at the very top about your guitar, which we can see in the background there.
Yeah.
Tell us about why you picked guitar and what it's been like for you learning to play guitar.
So I generally love music because growing up, because of the hardest situations I was facing, I would really turn up to music, to calm myself down. So music became something, and I actually have a band here in the United States. So we sing at conferences, we just sing just a cappella and stuff. So I've been trying to learn a guitar because I'm just interested in how music is all these notes, because I just sing, but I also want to create the sound. So yeah, it's just me. I'm just fascinated about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what's right now? So you're teaching middle school, but you're also doing some research. So tell me about the research that you're working on. You said you're doing research into cervical cancer.
Yes. So at Arizona, so I was just doing my undergraduate degree. But towards my junior year, which was my 3rd year, I decided that because to go into medical school, you need to have research experience. You also need to have these community services, like you went to some hospital and then you volunteer. Like you need to have those kind of things on your personal statement and also on your. So I was trying to tick those boxes, like you know. So I spoke to this one of my professors. I told them like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to go to medical school, but I also want to do research. I don't mind what kind of research you're doing. But one of my professors told me like, no, you don't want to work with me. I know what you like in Tombi. I'm just going to send you to this lady. She'll be your role model. So when I went to meet this lady who's doing amazing things at Arizona State, her name was called Dr. Anderson. She's doing research on cervical cancer, but she's working in like these resource limited countries, which is like Africa and other countries as well, like Asian countries. So what she's doing is like people die of cervical cancer. And I've actually seen it in Zimbabwe as well. Like people die of cervical cancer, but the reason why they die is because they go to the doctors in late stages. And when you go to the doctors in late stages, it's like, it's too late. We can't do anything. We can't operate on you because the cancer has grown so much that there's no intervention. So we're trying to find a way that we can at least know if a person has cervical cancer earlier, like in its early stages, so that the person can go to the doctor and then you get help. So that's how I started working with her. I was like, okay, I can contribute because I also come from these resource limited areas. I can also add some knowledge as well. So that became my project. I had to work on and also write some pieces on. And I was actually happy because working with her was more like, so that's the thing. In universities, it's more like aligning yourself with these people who are like who are also doing things. It rubs on you because you also become like, I don't know, you also want to achieve things as well because they are doing some things as well. It rubs on you, something like that. So working with her, I actually like realized, oh, she's a woman. She's doing these amazing things. And in Zimbabwe, I've never seen a woman who's like an oncologist. She's also a professor and she's trying to make these groundbreaking things. So like at the end of the day, I became like, oh wow, I also want to be like this. So it was more like rubbing on me, like the research thing. And I also like the fact that she was also working on women, which is something that it was down deep in my mind. Like women also taught, like just do housework and stuff. I was like, let me also help something that can contribute to women's health. So I became interested in like the research and I've been working on it. We are looking for biomarkers. So that's one of the things we're like trying to do. Yeah.
How long have you been doing this research? And explain to those of us who are not in the medical field, what does that mean when you say we're looking for biomarkers? What is that?
Okay. So I've been working with her for 2 years and I've wrote my thesis about last year. It's still in the publication. So biomarkers is like you're trying to get it's like you use something that is already in your body, but you are using it to tell you. It's like when you, I don't know how to say. So when you have, let's say for hormones, when you have elevated levels of hormones, it's because something is going on in your body. So when you have like an instrument that can measure that increase in hormone, and then you can tell like, oh, this hormone is rising up because there's cancer. So you use that. You use that hormone to tell that, oh yeah, it's rising because of cancer. So those are like some of the things that we mainly look for when we're doing research. You're like, okay, what can correlate with like cancer? What happens when someone is developing cancer? And then you realize, oh, when there's cancer, they have like cells growing up, like they just like rapidly dividing. There are some proteins that are being released in the body, and then you check those proteins and we use those proteins. We're like, oh, okay, because of this protein, it indicates that they have this kind of cancer or this.
What are the signs that we should be looking for? Well, like, what are the early signs, symptoms of cervical cancer?
Okay, so I would say cervical cancer mainly comes from this disease called HPV. So HPV is more like, it's not really a deadly, it's not like HIV, it's not really deadly, but once you get it, it's like sexually transmitted infection. You don't really have like so many symptoms, but it's just a virus that gets inside your body and lives inside your body. And then if you continue to have it, like for a certain longer period of time, you start developing like these symptoms. It's mainly like your cervix. So that's when you start experiencing pain. Like you just feel like something is going on. Like it's just like pains most of the time for cervical cancer. Yeah. And it doesn't develop. Yeah.
And I would assume then with something like that, where maybe a lot of women will just dismiss it as, cramps, period pains, those kinds
That's the thing. It's like you feel like it's just menstrual cramps, but nah. There are some extreme levels of like cramps that you really need to. And most of the time, people here in the US, they have these mammograms. Sorry, I don't know if I'm saying it the right way. They have like these yearly checkups where you go check like your reproductive system every year. And I don't think that really happens in Zimbabwe. So yeah, and that's why I've been working on like resource limited these countries where there's no such kind of services. So that's the main goal that I'm trying to do for now.
That's incredible. That's so true. You're so right that, our healthcare is more in countries that, are resource constrained, it's more reactive versus proactive care, right? We're responding when there's now a problem. And a lot of the time, by the time we respond, it's so far gone. Yeah. And actually an interesting thing, and not to get controversial, but I know in the country that I live in Canada, this is a very hot topic because the government at one point tried to mandate that all girls a certain age had to have the HPV vaccine. Yes. And for them not to have it, like the parent actually had to like write a consent for them not to have it. So is that part of your research as well in terms of whether the vaccine does or doesn't prevent it?
Mm-hmm. So actually having the vaccine actually really helps because you build an immunity against it. And I don't think these things, like I said, I have never seen them in Zimbabwe or like any other African country. I've been to Rwanda. I've never, it's just, I don't know. Just like the African health system, they're just like, so, I don't know what is happening. So, and these things like vaccines, they actually help. Like they help you in case if you get into that, if you get that infection, it doesn't progress to get to cervical cancer. So, yeah.
Tombi, I'm going to switch to some questions that were submitted. So Safina Gapare asked, she said, I often think we don't typically know how to prepare our kids for entry into university and don't realize that the prep to get into university actually starts really early. Knowing what you know now, what advice do you give to parents who have children who will potentially go to university at some point?
I would say it's more of, I have like three to 4 points. So the first one is like support. I would really go for support. Like having your parents supporting everything like really goes a long way. I've had so many of my friends, because of like their support, that consistent person is always like supporting them, like, oh yeah, do this and that, like not really pushing them, like walking with them. Like you realize actually they go way far because they have a support. Like that's the thing with me, like because of my parents, now they understand what I'm doing. And I even had to sit with my mom. Oh yeah, I'm into the university right now. I know it's a funny conversation when I have it with her, but she's like, oh, okay, oh, fine, I'm in for it, like something like that. And then you realize, okay, yeah, she's loving what I'm doing. Like that kind of support really pushes you. Like when you have someone who's like behind you, pushing you throughout. And it's not just like putting your expectations. Like that's what most of the parents do. It's just like, yeah, do this. You need to be a doctor, whether you want it or not. And I don't think that really works, because at the end of the day, we are creating an unhappy person who becomes rebellious. And those people, they don't do anything to this society. And and we want to create a person who is also like, oh, because of my parents did this to me, I'm also going to help someone. We also want to have those kind of individuals who are really passionate about what they're doing. And we realize those people, they end up becoming, they really go far. That's what I've seen so far, even here in the United States. And then like a second thing is like, our parents, they give us incomplete information. I don't know why. Incomplete information. And even the Bible says, sorry, I'm a Christian, so I always tend to go to the Bible. It says like, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. And I feel like our parents, they need to give us like the complete information. Like, okay, like really sitting us down. Like some of these talks, like sex talks, nobody ever gives their children those kind of things. And when you go to the university, that's when your child starts to experience this culture shock. They're learning from their friends, and you learn it in a totally different way. You make mistakes because you're learning from someone who's also learning at the same time, and you're all like a group of people who are leading nowhere. So, like, I feel like our parents sometimes, they need to like give us complete information, like on some side, like some education. There are some things that you need to know growing up so that you don't end up making mistakes. Because when you come here into the US, it's like pressure, not just US. It's just like you meet people who have different kind of faith. And if you come from a place where you don't know anything, you're also trying to learn that, you're trying to figure out, and you spend a lot of time trying to figure out, and you end up being lost because you're also like trying to learn because you don't have that background. Your parents didn't like provide that kind of, you're trying to find your identity and these kind of things. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I feel like sometimes our parents, they don't also give us complete information. It's just like they tell you, don't do these things. And I'm like, why? They don't tell you why. It's just like, don't. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't really help. Sometimes kids need to know why. Explain it, why I don't need to do that. Like, yeah. So incomplete information really kills us as children because we end up having to explore it on our own. And exploring sometimes comes with mistakes. Some of them you have to pay them for the rest of your life. And some of them you recover, but sometimes it's like it costs your dreams and everything. So yeah. Those are some of the things. And then the third thing, I would say, like, I don't know if people have some kind of faith. Like for me, I'm a Christian. So for me, that's something that really saved me when I was here. Because I had something that could keep me grounded. Like, okay, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm supposed to be very compassionate towards people. I need to be finding some ideas that can help people. And that actually led me to forming a Female Dreamers project, which I'm currently working on. Because I feel like I also need to give. And when you are a Christian as well, it's like you lend your hands into like pastors who really care for you in terms of like your spirituality and what you think, what happens in your mind also like comes into action. So you become a good person in general. I mean, this is just my thinking. Yeah. So I believe like whatever you surround yourself with, whatever you absorb, you see, you read, it's at the end of the day, it manifests into your actions and you become who you think you are. Yeah. So
tell me a little bit more about the Female Dreamers, the group that you said you've started.
So Female Dreamers started because, like I said, because of patriarchal norms in my society. So, and I've also experienced, like, I see domestic violence. Like, you see your neighbors fighting, meanwhile, I'm like, okay, it doesn't really make sense to me. So, and most of the time out here, it's mainly the wife who was asking for the money to buy some certain things for the house, and then the husband gets angry, and I'm like, okay, it doesn't really have to be that way. So I thought of forming an initiative where I lend them the money and then they can start their small projects or markets, whatever, musica, they call it musica. And then they sell some stuff. And then I come collect, if they raise enough to give me some back and then they take the profits, then that's fine. So it's more like something like that. But for me, I was mainly teaching them how to raise like chickens, because it raises, like, you can have more money rather than selling tomatoes. So I mean, that is just my thinking.
Sure, I think the profit margin on a chicken is bigger than on a tomato.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, if they sell the chicken, I buy the chicks for them, and then they grow them, sell them, and then I just take 10%, and then they have the rest. So that was like the main idea behind the project. So yeah.
And how's the project going?
So far, it has been going well. I mean, we've been facing some problems because of COVID-19, but I mean, afterwards, I'm planning to extend it to make it like continue working. Yeah.
I mean, I know you talked earlier about you wanted to do medicine, so that's what prompted you to want to do the biochem. But what is it that motivates you?
Okay, I'll start with the motivation part. I'll say my family. My family motivated me a lot, and also my community as well. Because my family, they were really hardworking. Like I said, my dad was a builder. It was more like you see him very hardworking, like, doing all these kind of jobs. And then for my mom as well, like, she was always working. So that kind of like, and remember, like I said, my mom would go to work and I would spend the entire day like inside the house or helping my brothers before I go to school, doing everything, rushing. And I felt like I also had like a responsibility. So I don't know, maybe it was just the responsibility part where I knew like, oh, I'm responsible for house chores. I need to do this and that, like gaining those responsibilities. So my parents actually, I mean, I didn't know if they were doing it intentionally, but unintentionally, they actually taught me how to work hard for some things. And we weren't being handed things on a platter. You had to work. I had to get some of these things, like to get like, I mean, like if you ask for something, like, okay, you need to work. You're coming with me to, I don't know, Maricho. If you don't know Maricho, it's like you go into someone's field and then you're like plowing to get your money because you need something. You had requested something, like, no, you're coming with me. You need to see what I'm doing. So that's kind of things, like they taught me how to work hard for things. And I felt like that really, it became easier when I came to the university, because I knew like, okay, to get my grades, I just need to work very hard. To get this, I need to do this. So you become like a self-functioning adult, like, like, okay, I need to work hard, or I need to do this kind of things. So because of that, they taught me like those kind of things, like early age. And I was responsible, like I had to take care of my brothers. And it's actually like, I don't know, I just became like more like a taking care of person. Like I'm just like taking care of things. So yeah, because I was taking care of my brothers a lot, it also, like, even in college, it's like, oh, yeah, I need to be taking care of things as well. So I started looking for this project. I mean, like I told you, I was working with international students at my school. I decided, because I faced a culture shock when I was coming to Gateway, I also had to help like other students at my school, Arizona State University. So I became like president of like this international community. So I was like organizing, let's do these things. Make sure that someone is happy. Talk to them, smile, even if they speak broken English. No, try to make them. Like I had some scenarios where you have like students coming in, they're like from Colombia, they speak Spanish, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to speak Spanish. We had to use like some sign language and, make them happy. And I actually felt like, because I just love like, to make sure that people are like, okay, they are feeling good and stuff. And that actually gave me like, it actually motivates me like sometimes. It really motivates me, And I would say for my community as well. Like for me, mainly because the community where I came from, I really watched a lot, like domestic violence, patriarchal norms. It's just like a normal community. It's like a ghetto community, honestly. Like you see a lot of things happening. People are just like in the streets or just, So for me, watching all those things, inequalities, this happening, it really like impacted me a lot. And sometimes it motivates me. I'm always looking for things to like, what can I do to help my community as well? So, yeah.
Do you see yourself going back to Zimbabwe when your studies are done?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so that's the thing. I really want to have some concrete skills, like something that I can feel like with this, I'm actually gonna make a change. So that's like, I'm still like developing that. So eventually I'll come back,
Rungano asked this question. That's Rungano Tanyanyua, who said that her son's in upper 6, but he has no idea what he wants to do. Should she be worried about that?
Okay, no, I would say no, don't be worried because, it depends which colleges they want to go like afterwards. If they are to stay in Zimbabwe, I would say they will really need to know what they want to do. But to know what you want to do, I would say like most of the time our schools, they don't teach us to know because they expect you to just figure out in your head. Honestly, it doesn't come out that way. Like you need exposure to know what you want to do. So I would really encourage, like if they have a kid who's like A-level, I think they are in that age where they can like intern or like, I don't know, internship. I don't know if they call it that in Zimbabwe. Internships. Internship is more like you go shadow someone or if either for a month or a week, I don't know, it depends. You ask like a person that you feel like, I want to be a doctor. And then you go ask that person like, okay, can I shadow you for like 2 days whilst watch what you're doing and see if I really like this, like from the rest of my life. So that's like shadowing. So that's how you know what you want to do. If the person, if they don't know really what they want, what they don't want to do. So, and then the second part is with the American schools and like these European schools, they have a way where you come into school, and when you come into the school, they make you teach like all sorts of classes, like lots of classes, and they don't expect you to make a decision till you are in your second year. So that's like one thing to like explore, take this class, you try this class, no, and then you take another one. So yeah, with American schools, I would say if they're coming to American schools, they don't really need to worry because that is being taken care of like when you're in college. Like you have that opportunity to explore. Like you make your decision when you're like in your third year. That's when they ask you like, okay, so by the way, which major do you want to do? Yeah, so but otherwise first year, second year, you're like cruising through and exploring. But if they're in Zimbabwe, I would say they should try shadowing. If the person is really interested in medicine, at least as a parent, try to find a doctor, try to negotiate if they can, like your child can like shadow, like spend that day with that person, shadow and see what they're doing, or even an engineer as well. Or have like an interview. If parents can organize that for their kid, like informal interviews, they call it informal interviews. You ask the person who's doing the particular thing that your child is interested in, ask them like, oh, can I like have like an interview, ask them questions. And I would say like most of the time when you're having interviews, ask like everything, because because it's not just like, oh, are you happy? You ask like those questions like, what made you want to do that? Are you happy doing this job? What's like your day to day, like those, so that your kid also have like, they can measure themselves whether they are able to do that.
Yeah.
So I would say like those are two ways you can go about it.
That's I really like your idea of, encouraging where there's an opportunity. I know sometimes the opportunity is not there, but if there's an opportunity for, them to go in and intern, shadow someone, because I think sometimes too, their careers where, they've been glamorized on TV or in movies. It's like I wanted to be a lawyer for a long time because it was so glamorous on LA Law, right? And then I actually spent some time with a lawyer, and I realized this is not all just up and go in front of a judge. There's a lot of reading and paperwork and, quite dry stuff. And that's just wouldn't have fit with my personality. But I wouldn't have known that without having that experience. So I love what you said, that if there's an opportunity to either intern, and maybe sometimes that's not always possible, but even just reaching out to somebody, who's doing the job and sitting down with them, asking, hey, can I spend an hour? I think most people are quite generous with their time, especially if you're a young person.
For them coffee, definitely. Yeah, they'll say yes. Yeah, true. Yeah.
What is your biggest dream for yourself at this point?
That's a good question. So my dream, I think for now, my perspective has changed, because like, remember, like I said, like I was like only one, like you're just like one way, the highway, that's it. Like for now, I think it's changing, because you realize with you're an individual and you have so many abilities. God gave you these talents, abilities and stuff, and they're there for your purpose. So I actually realized that I love teaching students, but I also love research. And I'm like, I'm no longer that person who really want to do one thing. I literally like want involved in every way I can possibly can. Like if I have an ability for it, if I can contribute, why not? I can like do this thing. And I feel like that's the mentality in Zimbabwe. It's like I've actually watched it with my friends. Actually, you see like kids, they really like, they go to high school, they do A levels, they go to university. They do their universities, that's it, done, undergraduate. The next thing, marry, have kids, sit down, done. That's it, and life continues. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, because that's like the norm. It's like it's that. But all this, you can be doing other things. I mean, it's not only, it doesn't have to end that way. It can end in different ways. I mean, that is just me. I mean, I think it might be the American system that has like changed me. But yeah, it's just, it's just different now. Yeah.
That's a really great perspective. I love that you're continually evolving, you're continually becoming the next version of yourself, that it's not like a finite, this is the destination and that's the end, that you can constantly change, evolve, find new things that are of interest depending on the phase of your life, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Because like everything changes. Like now, it's COVID-19. I mean, some jobs you can't really do what you want to do. And if you are that person who's like only one thing at a time, honestly, you wouldn't survive. So yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, like with our kids, that's why I'm saying like there are some skills like that we need to teach our kids. Like for me, I really wish I was like, okay, I was like learning another language. I wish I was like learning some guitars, I could be like doing some music things on the side. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, some skills. We all need those things. Yeah.
Well, you are a delight, Tombi. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I hope I've answered all the questions.
I hope so. I certainly think from the comments that, people have really enjoyed listening to you. I'd love to hear, because I'm such a believer in, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, in the power of your thoughts and also in the power of your words and how they shape your life. So I'd love to know, if I was to say to you, finish this sentence, I am, what would you say?
I am? Okay, I'm a researcher. Sorry. That's what I'm mainly thinking about experiments.
But who's Tombi the person outside of work?
Outside of the work, I love teaching. Like I'm into teaching people. Like I give advice. That's one of the things that I do. I love reading the Bible, and some of my friends have been telling me that you have this gift where you connect things in the Bible and you like tell a person, and I'm like, oh, I do that. So I literally spend most of my time doing that, and I actually love it. So I'm mainly like preaching out, preaching the gospel. Yeah, like this and that, connections, making sure it connects to our lives.
You are a delight, Tombi. Thank you. I want to wish you continued success wherever the path eventually leads you. I wish you continued success. And I also want you to just know how incredibly proud I am of you as a woman, as a Zimbabwean woman, based on who you are, who you've become, who you are becoming, and also based on where you've come from, because you had to overcome so many obstacles, so many hurdles that many would have, not jumped over. Many gave up before they got to where you got to. So bravo to you for persevering, for doing hard work, and for being such a delight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing such wisdom, and wish you all the very best for the future.
All right. Have a great day.
Take care.
Here's what I'd love to ask you as our community. So I want to know from you, who do you want me to have on the show? Who would you like me to interview? Who are some of the amazing women whose stories you would like for us to share on this platform? If you have any fantastic ideas, and even better, if you can connect me with them, please comment, leave your comment, or DM me and tell me who are some incredible stories I should be sharing on this platform. And the other ask that I have of you is for you to subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and share. Please share. If you find any of our interviews inspiring, please share them with your friends and family.